Good morning, class. All right, today we're going to touch on transformations, okay? The first transformation that we are going to learn about is translation, okay? And as you can see on the board, translation is a vertical or horizontal slide of a figure, okay? The symbiotic form or rule, which you'll hear me say a lot, is what's your rule for a translation is coordinates x and y, where you make it x plus h and y plus k, okay? Our h represents the horizontal shift, and our k represents the vertical shift, okay? All right, so to start, we are going to start with two examples, okay? Our first example, if you look on your notes, question number 1, it says rectangle QRST with vertices of Q with the coordinates of -1, or 6 and -1, with R coordinates -3 and 1, S coordinates 1 and -5, and T coordinates -2 and -7, okay? We are going to be using our rule, which is x plus 5 and y plus 7, okay? So how we are going to implement this rule is if I do my work on the board, okay? So my rule is x plus 5 and y plus 7, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take each coordinate and you're going to plug in the x and then you're going to plug in the y, okay? So if I go through, I'm going to plug in -6 plus 5, and then I have -1 plus 7, okay? That's going to give me -1 and a +6, okay? Then I have -3 plus 5, and then I have 1 plus 7, which is going to give me -2 and 8. And then I have 1 plus 5, and I have -5 plus 7, which is going to give me 6 and 2. And then for my last coordinate, I have -2 plus 5, and I have -7 plus 7, which these will cancel out, and it's going to give me 3 and 0, okay? So now that we have our new coordinates, what happens is when you do a translation, it creates a new image, and with that new image, the new coordinates are now prime, okay? So we now have Q prime, we have R prime, we have S prime, and we have T prime, okay? So for our new coordinates, you're going to plug in, I have -1 and 6, I have -2 and 8, I have 6 and 2, and 3 and 0, okay? So what you're going to do, we have our pre-image, okay, which was the coordinates that were given to us. Now we've found our new coordinates, so we're going to take this time and we're going to plot them, okay? All right, so I have -1 and 6, okay, and that's Q prime. Okay, I have -2, 1, 2, and 8. All right, because someone tell me what we did wrong. Are we right? Is it positive or negative? It's going to be positive, yes. Why? Because -3 plus 5 is, good job, Anthony, okay? So Ms. Griffin made a boo-boo. All right, so that's going to be 2 and 8, okay? So you're going to count 1, 2, up 8, okay? And that's going to give you your R prime. And then our last result, okay? So we have a -2 plus 5, which is going to give us 3 and 0, okay? So we have 3 and 0, which is T prime. So this is what your image should look like if you did it correctly, okay? All right, we're going to do one more example. Now this one is dealing with the square, okay? So again, this is the problem number 4 on your page, okay? So it now says that we have a square with W, X, Y, Z with the vertices of W, coordinates 1, 7, x coordinates 6 and 5, y coordinates 4 and 0, z coordinates negative 1 and 2. Okay, so we are going to use our rule. Okay, so can someone tell me what the rule is that we are supposed to be using? Yes. Okay, so now this changes from a positive to now we're working with a negative. Okay, so now we used addition first, now we're using subtraction. So now it's telling us that we are using x minus 7 and y minus 6. Okay, so again, going through my coordinates, I have 1 minus 7, which is going to give me negative 6. And then I have 7 minus 6, which is going to give me 1. Okay, and I know that that is now my w, yes, prime. Okay, now for x, we have 6 minus 7, which is going to give us a negative 1. And then we have 5 minus 6, which also is going to give us a negative 1. So that now becomes our x prime. Okay, and then we have y prime, which is 4 minus 7, which is going to give us a negative 3. And then we have 0 minus 6, which is going to give us a negative 6. And then for z prime, we have negative minus 7, which is going to give us negative 8. And then we have 2 minus 6, which is going to give us a negative 4. Okay, so our new coordinates, our new prime numbers. Okay, so what you're going to do is take this time and you're going to go ahead and you're going to graph it. Okay, so for my new prime, I have negative 6 and 1. Okay, negative 1 and 1. Then we have negative 3, 1, 2, 3, and 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, which is y. And then for last, it's 8, negative 8 and negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should come out with the same distance and same shape. Okay? All right, do you have any questions? Okay, so we did 1 and 4, so that means, yes, 2 and 3 is going to be your practice. All right, now we are going to shift to reflection. Okay, so with reflection, we have to remember that what do y'all think reflection is? Reflection is what? Yes, a mirror. You're looking at your reflection, okay? So it's going to be a mirror image of each other. Okay, but the mathematical term for this is it's a flip over a line that is called the line of reflection, okay? So each point and its image are the same distance from the line of reflection, okay? You have vertical or horizontal lines, and if you have those, they form x is equal to a number or y is equal to a number. And the possible lines of reflection is going to be either your x coordinate, your x-axis, or your y-axis, okay? So with the diagonals, you either have y is equal to x, or you have x is equal to negative x, or y is equal to negative x, okay? All right, so there's a couple of things that I implemented from your textbook that I feel like is very important. You're going to have your coordinate rules of reflections. Okay, so it says that if coordinates AB is reflecting in the x-axis, then your image of your points is going to be A and negative B. So that means x is going to be positive, y is going to be negative. Okay, if you reflect in the y-axis, then your x becomes negative and your y stays positive. If you have a reflection in the line where y is equal to x, then you flip. So your x becomes your b, or your x becomes your y, and then your y, which was your b, now becomes your a. So you flip your x and your y. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, and then if it's y is equal to negative x, then your flip stays, but then we change the symbol, which makes it negative. Okay? All right, so we have, again, a couple of examples because I wanted to make sure that you were able to experience and see what it looks like when you're doing with y-axis, when you're doing it with a line where x is equal to negative 1, as well as flipping over the y-axis, and then if you're dealing with x is equal to a positive number, okay? So this is number 2, which is the rectangle that's in your textbook. So now what it's asking us to do is we need to reflect over the y-axis, okay? So how you're going to reflect, as many spaces as you went over, that's how many you will go to reflect over your axis. And so because we are doing the y-axis, this is considered your y-axis, okay? So if I do my flips, okay, I'm counting and I come over and that's P prime, okay? So what is P prime? Yes, -1 and 2, okay? All right, okay, so if I count for Q, what is gonna be Q? Yes, good job, guys. All right, so you have -2 and 5. Okay, what about R prime? If we count all the way over, what is R prime gonna give us? Yes, -8 and 3. Okay, and then what is S prime going to get us? Because we are on the x-axis, so if I count all the way over, where is S going to stop for me? Yes, -7 and 0. Okay, so take this time and plot, okay? Okay, and then just make sure that you have a reflection. Okay, make sure you have your reflection. Okay. All right, and then if you look, it should just mirror each other. Okay. All right. So now let's look at problem number 6. Okay, so now you're dealing with a square. Okay, and Ms. Griffin ran out of a little bit of space writing on this, so I'm going to go ahead and separate it. Okay, so you're writing this is square. Okay, so if I am looking at my square example, okay, it tells me my coordinates are R is 0 and 3, S is 5 and 4, T is 6 and -1, and then U is 1 and -2, okay? But now this time, I have to reflect it over the line where X is equal to -1, okay? So where X is equal to -1, if I come to my coordinates, I find the -1, and this becomes my line of reflection. Okay, so go ahead and make that mental note, okay? And then from there, the same thing that we did here, we're gonna do there. So we're just gonna count over, okay? So if I count over, all right, what is R prime? Okay, -2 and 3, okay? What about S prime? -7 and 4. What about T prime? -8 and 1. And then what about U prime? Is it -8 and 1? That's right, Mason. It's -8 and -1. All right, and then what about U prime? Okay, -3 and -2. Okay, all right, so again, if you do your coordinates and you count over, okay, it should be the same. And the biggest thing I can't stress is please make sure that you label, okay? And remember, it's a reflection, so make sure that when you reflect it, if I were to move it back over, it would still have the same letters, all right? Okay, so now this is asking us to reflect into the x-axis. Excuse me, all right? So if I look at A, what would prime A be? Anybody? Okay, if we're reflecting, we're going to count, okay? So it's going to be, yes, -4, -2, okay? What about B? 4 and -7. Okay, what about C? 5 and -1, okay? So if I count and I move, I went 4 and 2, so this is now A prime. I went 4 and 7. This is now B prime. And then I went 5 and 1. This is C prime, okay? So is it a good reflection? Yes, it is. All right, and then the last one that we're going to touch on dealing with reflection, okay, is if I have that, I'm using a parallelogram, and it's saying that in the line of y is equal to 2, okay? So if I make it equal to 2, that means I'm using the positive 2 on the y-axis to create my image, okay? So if I count up, I have 1, 2, this is now my new line of reflection, okay? And for prime C, Victoria, what did we get for prime C? Yes, -4 and 8, okay? What about for prime B? Okay, -2 and 4. Okay, what about for E? Yes, 6 and 3. Okay, and then what about for prime F? 4 and 7, okay? All right, so if you do your reflection, this is what your image should look like. And what is the most important thing that we're supposed to do? Label, okay? So don't forget to label prime, because if you don't, then we won't be able to tell which one was the original number, okay? All right, so